son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action from the Tales of the Turtle 400 from Chicagoland Speedway. Here's in a half shell, turtle power. Well, kids, it's week one of the playoffs as NASCAR trashes the chase format and has now moved to the playoffs, which basically means all we're doing is carrying over more points that we weren't before. The stage races will be at lap 80, lap 160, and all the way to the finish at lap 267.
In 2015, the race at Chicagoland, 7 out of the top 10 finishers started later than the 11th starting position, with 3 out of the top 10 finishers starting later than 24th. In last year's race, 4 out of the top 10 finishers started outside the top 10, with Ryan Blaney being the biggest mover of them all, going from 22nd and finishing 4th. There have been 16 total races here. Only 4 of those winners have started within the top 10. 5 of those race winners started outside the top 20, with 2 of those being outside of the last 3 years, with Kez in 2014 starting 25th and Hambone starting in 2015 starting 29th.
Well, kids, as we roll to the land of Ditka and Polish sausages.
Oh, yeah.
We have a 40%. Ditka, Polish sausage, Ditka. We have a 40% chance of thunderstorms when we're scheduled to go racing Sunday, September 17th at 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports Network. All right, Liehr, do you have a Chicagoland Ditka-style burning rubber for us?
Burning rubber, Chicagoland style, baby!
That was fabulous, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed it. All right, man. Who do you have to burn some rubber for us this week?
Yeah, man, I'm definitely excited to get back to racing tomorrow over at Chicagoland. But I'm going to be rolling with a guy that is the crafty veteran on the NASCAR Cup circuit, and a guy that's had a pretty average season, but going to be going with the number 48. And it's been a long time since the 48 team was definitely my burning rubber pick, that's for sure, in 2017. But like we talked about, they did have a pretty good start to the season with a couple wins. But overall, I mean, during the summertime and now we're in the fall, I mean, they've just been pretty average and below average, man. Obviously, tomorrow marks the first, playoff race that we have for 2017. And this team's going to come to the track, I think, with their game face on. That it's kind of like, what's that movie where, Rocky Balboa, not Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone, does the turn with the hat. It's like turning on the switch.
Yeah, you're referring to the 80s greatness known as Over the Top.
Over the Top.
The arm wrestling movie.
Over the Top.
Meet me halfway across the sky.
But Jimmy's competing to be the first driver with 8 championships. I mean, this is unprecedented territory that nobody's gotten to. And last year he tied, Earnhardt and Petty. So this is his opportunity to make his stamp on history. And, he usually does, okay here at Chicagoland. It's not his best track, but this week he did, what he usually does, and he qualifies just average, and he qualified in the 14th position. Jimmy has an okay stats here, like I said, 15 starts. He does have 0 wins here, which I think would, this is kind of lining up to be one of those times where he marks that off of his to-do list. But yes, this is, the correct stat. I can't believe he doesn't have a win here either. And that's actually one of the few tracks on the circuit that he has not been in victory lane. But he's got 7 top 5s, 10 top 10s. He's the 9th highest costing driver on the board this week at $9,100. Last year, he led 118 laps here, and that's after he started in the 8th position, and he finished, unfortunately, with a 12th finish. But with 118 of 267 laps led, that's a dominator right there. So this team knows what they've been struggling this year, and I think going back to one of his specialty tracks, these 1.5 oval tracks, he's going to get his 2017 playoff started off on the right foot with at least a top 5 finish. But I will not be surprised if he takes home the victory tomorrow. And when it comes to a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to be one of those dominator guys that you're going to have to own. So do not overlook the 48 tomorrow.
All right, dude. I think you had some solid analysis there, but I have a question.
Okay.
His place differential from where he's at versus his actual potential to be a dominator on this track, because let's just be honest, those Chevys are not nearly as fast as the Toyotas. So do you have him dominating some laps, like leading laps, being the fastest car out there, or are we just talking about a place differential play in the fives? Because if that's what we're talking about, I'm kind of worried that he may not outpoint a dominator, and I'm worried that I have to have those 3 dominators this week.
No, for sure. But the way that the pricing is, and I put some lineups together, the way pricing is put together, this is one of those guys you can team up. Like you can do, Dominator, Truex, Dominator, Kyle Busch, and Jimmy Johnson, and still get away with it and still make it underneath your salary this week. So, it's one of those teams that I think is going to be at the end of the day is going to be a must-own play. He will be place differential guy, but in my opinion, I definitely think he has the opportunity to obtain some of those dominator points as well because, with the segments at 80 and 160, but this is one of those types of tracks too that he definitely has the ability to jostle and move forward. So with good pit strategy, I think that team definitely has a chance to at least get a top 5, if not a win. And yeah, I think at some point he will lead some laps here. He's just one of those types of guys that when the pressure's on, he's going to come and perform. And same with Chad Knaus. And obviously they've proven that time over time.
Yep. See, my problem is I don't have him leading laps. Instead, I have this being a Toyota Fest. And I know he's driving the Skittles car, but I don't have a Skittles hat. I want a Skittles hat. I need to get a Skittles hat. But I would not embrace the Skittles heat concept. I'm sorry. I don't know what you think about it, Liehr, but Skittles and heat, like sweet heat, that just sounds a little odd. I'm not a fan of that. But I think that he's going to bring the fire and win this race this weekend. I know Rowdy is 10,600, but this car is just so much faster than all the other cars on the track. Matter of fact, all the Toyotas are fast on the track, so much so that Kez started a Twitter war that was quickly won by Rowdy and Hamlin, where Rowdy basically gave him I don't know that there's an appropriate way to say what Rowdy said on Twitter, and Hamlin just told him to shut his mouth. And
with Kyle Busch saying a few extra acronyms after that.
Yes. So, guys, I have no problem if I have no problem if you want to stack all the Toyotas this week. And matter of fact, I'm kind of leaning that way. I wouldn't count out Hamlin. Hamlin, Truex are starting 2 and 3 right behind Rowdy on the pole. They are also potential dominators. Look to them to lead laps here. Look to them to also have top 5 finishes. I wouldn't count out Kenseth starting 10th or Suarez starting 13th, although the Suarez play is the riskiest in my opinion. But Jones starting 24th is an extremely sexy play. Now, a lot of people are going to jump off of him because he's starting at the rear of the field because he had to switch out tires. The reason why he's starting 24th is because he spun out on the qualifying lap and lost his tires. That's why he's from the rear of the field. But we've actually seen other cars at Chicagoland get up through the pack. I have no question that Jones will be up to 24th within the first few laps and will be gaining you place differential. But back to Rowdy. Rowdy has a 1-to-1 here where he led 165 laps and has 3 straight top 10s here, 2 of which he started on the pole and led at least 21 laps, and one of which he led as many as 121. But this car is poised to make a playoff run as well as all these Toyotas. I think Rowdy's going to get it done this year. I think he's going to win the championship. It's going to be between him and Truex, and Rowdy's going to come down on top. I'm on the Rowdy train, and to be honest, I might be starting my lineups off with him and Truex as my co-dominators. Liehr, your thoughts on Rowdy and the Toyotas? I know I kind of crammed them all in there.
No, you're good, bro. No, I definitely that combination that you just talked about right there, the 18 and 78. 2 of the best this year, best in the sport right now. Obviously, 2 of the best favorites. I definitely think that Kyle Busch is going to be a must-own. He has a really strong car, and when he usually comes to the track with a really strong car, they are definitely a tough team to beat. And Yeah, he could go 1-1 tomorrow. I think he's going to come with crazy high ownership percentage. Nothing wrong with that. You just called it, though. Is he your 2017 Monster Cup Monster Cup champion?
Yeah, my Monster Cup playoff champion is Rowdy this year.
Interesting.
I'm calling it right now.
Okay, I'll mark the tape on that one.
Who do you have? Who do you have? Like, I'll put you on the spot right now. Who's going to win it?
I mean, there's no doubt. There's no question in my mind. It's the 78 team. If you guys have been watching this show for 3 years, you know I've been on the Truex train ever since it started. And so I'm not just a bandwagoner, as my co-pilot would say over there on some other teams that I root for. No, you cannot go into this playoff and not have Martin Truex as your favorite, because the guy's just had such a dominating season this year. That team just on point, and every track, regardless of what type of track it is, he's and Cole Pern have seemed to put together a game plan to bring a great car, but then also incorporate a great strategy into that race as well. So I'm definitely going to be on the 78 team to win the championship. But back to the task at hand at Kyle Busch. Yeah, I'm going to have some ownership on Kyle Busch. I mean, there's just no going around it. It does scare me a little bit, though. 2 out of the last 3, he started on the pole and had, at least -6 place differential points. Mm-hmm. But he only had, 21 laps led on one and 46 on the other. So, 0.25. I mean, that adds up to an additional 20 points. So it kind of makes up for that. I mean, there's no arguing. You have to have exposure on Kyle Busch. When it comes to Denny Hamlin, I'm soft on Hamlin, man. I'm not going to have any exposure on Hamlin. Maybe that's me just being sour from last week, where I was kind of on the Hamlin train and he really disappointed with a horrible, horrible race. Yeah, I'm going to definitely have exposure on Truex. But you can't count out the number 42 team. They've also been there all season long. So I'm definitely going to have some exposure on him as well.
Nice. Yeah, way to choose Truex, dude. The guy buys to the finals. He's amassed so many points.
Yeah, he's 53 points ahead. And
way to go out there on a limb, Liehr.
Right. And I'm sure people would say that, but I've been with Truex since the inception, and I'm, going to stick by him when he's actually performing.
Well, I didn't choose Mr. 7X, but I went with the next favorite, so I can't really complain too much. It's not like we chose Kane or Stenhouse to win it. So,
sure.
Speaking of which, it's time for values. Liehr, who's your value play this week, buddy?
Well, speaking of a guy you just talked about, but look, I know with this pick it appears that I'm going to be rolling all over Hendrick this weekend, which I kind of will be. But they haven't had such a very good season this year. Got lucky with Kane, at Indianapolis. And then the last one before that was Jimmy Johnson at Dover in early part of June. But let's face facts here. I mean, they have not had a very good 2017 at all. They've had so many changes going on within that garage with the new drivers coming in next year. One of the legends of NASCAR, Dale Earnhardt Jr., for popularity-wise. But definitely a guy that you hate to see kind of going towards the end of his road, but I think he's definitely left a lasting legacy, Hendrick Motorsports. But this place strictly just because I think Kasey Kahne last time, he was in the playoffs, he performed very, very well. And remember last year, towards the end of the year, where he was a must-own when he was out of the playoffs, but he was just coming with good performance after good performance after good performance. But this is Kane's last chance here, at a playoff run, in my personal opinion. The guy's been in NASCAR for a long time, and this may be his last ride in a playoff run. So if I'm Kane, I'm waiting till the season is complete to pull off my full efforts as far as, hopefully get some more wins. But he's also going to have some news that he's going to break, too, about what his 2018 plans are. And if I was Kasey Kahne, I would not lay those plans out until the season is over, just because I want to concentrate and give everything that I have at this last run at the playoffs. But he had a horrible qualifying run yesterday. He'll be starting from the 25th position. For a driver of his position and his quality of ride and his starting position, this team has a very good shot at least, a top 10, if not a top 5 this week. Kane has 13 starts here at Chicagoland, 0 wins. He's got 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. In the last 3 races at Chicago that Kane has started 19th or higher, he has finishes of 12th, 13th, and 7th. His cost this week is $7,700, which is about where he's been for quite some time. This type of track is what Kane has his highest career of wins on, which is between 1 and 2 mile tracks. So this is a 1.5 mile track, and he does really, really well at Charlotte. Now this is a little bit of a different track. Chicagoland is more of like Kansas with the embankment, but look for him to have a really good, strong performance tomorrow, and he's definitely going to be a major cash play if you play cash games. But I think in most GPPs, he will be a fairly high-owned driver this week.
Look, I agree with most of your points that you made. I think that he's a place differential play. He's also a interesting salary play. And I think it's a great car and a great driver to support with a great paint scheme. I think this paint scheme's amazing. I don't know if you're aware of it, but he has a child, a 9-year-old child cancer patient named Wyatt designed this scheme, and they put it on the car, and it looks so neat out on the track. And we want to wish Wyatt a speedy recovery from cancer and beat that stuff. And, also remind people right now, like, use this time, donate to these kinds of charities as well, because everybody's been donating to hurricane relief and stuff. But often when we have national tragedies like that, people leave out the other charities tend to suffer, and their donations tend to go down. So make sure like you're helping out children's hospitals to help out kids like Wyatt and things like that if you have the money to do so. Just remember to do so if you can during this time. But dude, I'm all over the Kane plate. The problem I have with Kasey Kahne is, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, it looks like he may be stealing Michael McDowell's ride. And the Levine family was talking about opportunities to get their car even more in, like have a playoff caliber car and more opportunities for the Levine car. And I'm like, are you kidding me? McDowell is like destroying it with your subpar equipment, and now you want to put Kasey Kahne in it, who couldn't do anything in Hendrick equipment? Like, right. Come on, man. Like, oh well, that's a rant. But I don't have a problem if you want to play Kahne. I think he's going to be over-owned, and the Hendrick cars have been off, but you disclosed that. So I would rather, speaking of McDowell, play McDowell. That's my value guy. He's 5,800. He's starting 30th. We've been to this rodeo before, guys. This is a top 20 car with a driver that's capable of getting you in the top 15. I love what McDowell has done this season, and I personally think it's absurd for Levine family to be talking about replacing him. What I want to see happen is I want McDowell to drive the wheels off of this car this weekend. I want a top 10 finish. Not only would it be awesome dirty for place differential play, but just give that giant middle finger to the idea of replacing him as a driver in that ride. I would love that, because I don't know that there's anybody that works as hard as that guy does in subpar equipment to be that good of a driver. And I just think it's tragic. Your thoughts on Mickey D?
Yeah, man. First and foremost, with that bit of news, yeah, that is disappointing, because I'm sorry, what he's been doing in that ride since he's been there, and especially this season being on a one-car team. I mean, I would love to see what Michael McDowell could actually do with a team that has the resources to give him top flight equipment. And like you said, I think it would be awesome if, if he went to maybe Stewart-Haas Racing. Now, I know there were rumors out there that Eric Amarola might be going to the 10, but dude, I think Michael McDowell to Stewart-Haas Racing, that guy, I would love to see what he could do with that type of equipment. Or, even RCR and going to the 27. I have no idea what their plans are for that ride yet, but or if it's even going to be around next season. But no, Michael McDowell is $5,800 for a guy starting 30th position. Like you said, the guy's been a top 20 car all season long. That is his second lowest starting position in 6 starts here. His 24th is the highest that he's gone, but with even most of his starts in the mid 30s. So he did have some issues here. Most of them were all mechanical car issues, no crashes or anything like that. So that team has been pretty consistent this season. So you can definitely trust the 95 and the Levine family McDowell car to go out there and devour the competition this weekend.
Oh yeah, he's in the Devour Frozen Foods. Well played. Nice work. All right, Lear. We've wrapped up some value. Who are you sending to the garage this week? Now remember, kids, this is a segment of the show where we get to talk trash on drivers. Maybe it's talking trash on NASCAR. Maybe it's talking trash on DraftKings a little bit if they priced or messed up some contests. I've already talked trash on Levine, like on Levine Racing. I want to send them to the garage for even the nonsense that they're talking. But I've got a real garage pick here in a second. Lear, who are you sending to the garage, buddy?
Well, brother, I'm going to be rolling with Austin Dillon. He starts his 2017 playoff with a nice qualifying run. He's going to be starting tomorrow from the 9th position. But this season, overall, Dillon only has 4 top 10 finishes, 2 of those which have come at 1 to 2 mile tracks, which obviously this track meets that criteria. But he has raced here 3 times. He's got 0 wins, obviously, 0 top 5s, and 0 top 10s, with a horrible finish of 43rd in 2015. Otherwise, he's finished here pretty much kind of where he started. His cost this week is $7,300, which for a top 10 start guy is really, in essence, not that bad. But this car and this team are not a top 10 team by any means. They haven't been all season long. They got into the playoffs with the 1 win at Charlotte, and that was just because of a really bold strategy move. Otherwise, this team has been very average all season. So really, he's likely to go back in the field tomorrow, and I just don't see him producing any points. Especially, he's going to have negative place differential, in my opinion. And I know some people will say, well, at 7,300, he's definitely a value. But I get it, but I can't put my stock in a guy that I think he's going to finish 15th or worse without a doubt. And I think he could even finish worse than that. He just hasn't really performed well when pressure comes on top of him. He seems to kind of fade into the night.
Yes, Austin Dillon has a problem with performances. We've seen some of his best times have came in really weird circumstances, like getting his crew chief fired and automatically having a new situation. He's a very fickle driver, and I don't like fickle drivers when they're starting in the top 10. And another driver that I think has been fickle all season, and I realize I was wrong on him last week, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to go back and tell you once again not to play Joey Logano. All the team's focus here is going to be on Keselowski. Joey starts 7th, and I know he finished 2nd last week and ended up getting a decent amount of points, but he didn't make the playoffs, and at $9K, I just don't see a way possible in which he pays off his salary unless you have this car actually dominating and leading laps. If that's the case, feel free to roster Joey Bag of Donuts. But I don't have this car doing any domination. I have this car falling backwards. I don't think it's a risk. And at $9K, it's an opportunity cost of a Hamlin or an opportunity cost of spinning up and getting a Truex or a Rowdy to pair together multiple dominators. And I just don't see Joey Bag of Donuts doing any of those things to warrant his $9K salary or me having him on his roster. Now, I realize he does have good track history here, but he's had good track history at a lot of tracks this season, and they have been a pile of hot, wet garbage. So I'm going to say last weekend was the outlier of them trying to put the throttle to the floor and just get it done. I don't think they're going to be motivated this week to do anything. Kez is where that team's focus and where that team's power is going to be put this week, in my opinion. So I'm fading Joey Bag of Donuts. Lear?
No, I hear you there. I mean, obviously, they want to give the guy with the opportunity to win the championship the most attention and everything that they got to that guy. Unfortunately, Joey just couldn't get it done, this season, and it's been very odd, man. Don't know what's going on in that garage, or maybe something personal is going on this season with Joey. We just, we don't know. Going to be very odd to not have that team in the playoffs. Like you stated, though, he does have some pretty decent history here, but he's not ever been a huge lap leader in his whole career. He's raced here 8 times. He's only led 34 laps. That's over 3 different races, majority of those coming in one race. So he does, though, have top 7 finishes in the last 4 out of 5 races. So, but at that price tag, like you said, I want somebody that I know that is going to be a dominator, and he just doesn't have that opportunity now. If you want to put him as maybe your 3rd driver, After your two dominators, yeah, I mean, that might be a separator that could give you some pretty good ownership, in a GPP. I don't think a lot of people, because of the atmosphere that's been around that 22 team, that they just have not been good. So last week, they did finally come when they needed to, but it just wasn't enough to get it done. Now that the pressure's off, I don't know, man. Now that they don't have to worry about getting into the playoffs, maybe they'll just relax, and who knows, maybe he could go out tomorrow and completely dominate, which I don't see that happening. But you never know when finally the pressure's off, that they don't have to subside themselves to trying to make that playoff push. So, but when it comes to having exposure on the guy, I'm going to have maybe one if I do.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm fading it, and for the most part, because either I'm doing where I feel like I want 3 dominators, or I'm doing 2 dominators and a place differential guy on the top end. And if I'm taking a third dominator, I'm taking a guy like Harvick, right? If I'm taking or Larson, if I'm taking place differential guys, I'm wanting more the Blaney starting 12th or the McMurray starting 19th. Those are guys that I think are in better positions to pay off their salaries a lot easier than Joey Bag of Donuts at 9. So since I kind of like went into that segment on my own, is there anybody else that you're really liking this week that you're looking forward to, that you like the starting position or their salary, Liehr?
Ryan Newman. I can't believe I'm about to say this and this is about to come out of my mouth, but dude, he's kind of a sneaky guy. He's been a sneaky guy all year. He got a win, so he locked himself in the playoffs. Now we're here. He's in the playoffs now. But the guy's been performing week after week. He's had pretty poor qualifying starts with a 27, a 17, and a 13, and a 25 after that. But you want to know what his finishes are the last 4 races? 3rd last week, 7th, 6th, and 4th. So 27th to 3rd, 17th to 7th, 13th to 6th, 25 to 4. I mean, this guy and this team has quietly been having a pretty good quarter here with what they've been doing. And this week they start 16th, and he's $7,500. And the way that team's been performing, they are a top 10 car right now. They're in the playoffs. They are fighting to win that playoff in that championship. I definitely like Ryan Newman this week. Another guy, you got Trevor Bayne and the Bayne train starting 26th at $7,100. I don't know. And then after that, it's kind of pick and choose who you really want to roll with. The lower tier guys is for those, big dominator guys that you want to play, and then the pump plays. But here at this 1.5 mile track, we got a little bit more room to breathe here. So we're not going to go so many laps down. So, some of these latter guys come back into play again, and because they can actually move and get up there and stay on the lead lap. So, yeah, that's mostly who I'm thinking that I'm going to have some good exposure on is Ryan Newman.
Newman is one of them. Also, Menard's starting positions is a nice place differential play as well, and he's cheap. For some reason, I really love the McMurray play starting 19th. And
yeah, that's another guy. But he's, J-Mac is obviously in the playoffs. He hasn't gone out and had a huge dominating performance this year. Was it Daytona that he got second, or what? Talladega he got second? Almost won that race, but he's in the playoffs starting 19th, but at $8,500, that's a guy you're going to be kind of little pot committed on, you know what I mean? So if you're going to go that route, you're probably going to have to go more super pump plays.
No, and that's what you need to do this week is you got to figure out your strategy, whether or not you want to go 1 dominator, 2 dominator, 3 dominator, or 1 dominator, 2 place differential, 2 dominator, 1 place differential, like of these studs, and then try to get the rest of it via the value. But I think you made an important point that everybody needs to pay attention to this week. When you're looking at value, you need to find cars that are going to stay on the lead lap. Like, this is a bigger track, so just make sure they're cars that aren't way slow, right? Like, the bottom tier guys are only going to pay off if there's wrecks, because they're going to go laps down, even at a bigger track like this. But the fringe guys can stay on the lead lap, and then if there's a wreck at the end, those are the guys that can move huge place differentials, as we've seen in the past, the Bushers of the world and stuff like that.
And people like that, they'll say, well, he's starting 18th, but Chris Buescher, that guy's had a pretty good car this year, and at his price point, $6,300. I mean, he could get a top 15. I
mean, let's put it this way. I was just using him as an example. I wouldn't play him this week. But the reason why I wouldn't play him is the reason why you would get him at like 3% ownership probably this weekend.
Right.
Anybody else, Liehr, that you have that you want to talk about real quick? All right. Well, then I think it's time to draw for the Harvick diecast that we gave away. Remember those of you that sent us messages that you gave to charity and we got a message. We entered you in the raffle twice. All the rest of you that commented, liked, and are subscribed got entered in once. So there's all the names as Liehr's showing. Liehr, put them in the hat.
Make sure I get the other guys in here that fell out here.
Don't forget anyone.
Or gals, sorry.
Shake it. Oh, shake it, oh baby now. Twist and shout. All right. Pick the winner, Liehr.
Okay. So the winner of the Kevin Harvick.
Back the hat up so we can see you draw it. There we go.
Sorry. For the winner for the Kevin Harvick diecast signed car is Alan Tyner.
Alan Tyner, first time winner. Awesome. You're going to need to message either I or Liehr. Probably Lear's the easiest person to message for this.
Yeah.
Message Liehr. And he'll need your address and information. At the LJet on Twitter. Get a hold of him there or on Facebook, either one. And I'm sure he will get that out to you as soon as possible. Guys, we want to thank you, as always, for tuning in. Thank you once again for getting us over the 1,000 view mark so we could give away that diecast. That is awesome. We'll do some more awesome giveaways when we hit some more milestones. Maybe one for the end of the season this year. For those of you that stick it out the long haul. Thanks for watching, guys. We love having you. Thanks for being a part of this. Let's win some money. Liehr, your thoughts?
Yeah, real quick. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but some pretty interesting things went down this week with Danica Patrick, Stuart Haas not extending her contract, Eric Amarola leaving the 43. So we've got some jostling in this 2017 season that keeps just getting crazy week after week. So we'll see what happens. Sponsors changing cars, just unbelievable week. But hope everybody has a great weekend. I will be out at One Arrowhead Drive tomorrow afternoon checking out my boys playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So I will be watching that. So I will be recording the race. So, but I'll definitely be in tuned on my phone to see how things go. But my winner for this weekend, I think Martin Truex gets it done with the Jimmy Johnson coming in second place is my pick there. So. But hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, and we always appreciate it.
Yeah, see, thanks for making me feel bad that we didn't do the news segment. Dang, man. I guess we should have. I just got all excited because I'd worked the other news into my picks. See, you got to remind me of those things before the show, Liehr. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a good week. Everybody, let's win some money.
Let's do this. Have a good weekend, everybody.